Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to do something a little bit different, and this is a video that hopefully will appeal to some of the newer photographers that have subscribed to my channel or even haven't subscribed to my channel. I want to do a short video about how to improve your photography skills with some simple tips. Now, modern cameras have made photography much easier. You can just set your camera to program mode and go out and shoot. And if you've got the eye, you will get some great shots. But to take it a little bit beyond that, you need to understand the techniques and the compositions and the settings of your camera. And you also need to go out and practice. And there are certain things that you can do to practice your photography skills. And today I want to get into some of those. So the first one is have a clear idea of what your subject is. As you get further into your photography, you'll realize that not every image needs a subject, but at the beginning, when you're first learning, you really do need to isolate a subject. Now, the way to do that is to look at the scene in front of you and try and isolate the thing that you think is most attractive in that scene. When you find that thing, that's what you concentrate on. That's what you build your composition around. You draw your leading lines into it. You set it on a third. This is your starting point for the image. A subject can be anything. It can be a single person in a crowd. It could be a door in a building. It could be anything that takes your eye. But once you've actually isolated your subject, that's when you can really hone the composition. Without it, your image will look bland. It's really important that your viewer's eye finds something in that image to hook onto. So isolating the subject is your first tip. Secondly, a lot of you who have new cameras will have bought it with a kit zoom lens. That means you can usually zoom in from, say, 24 to 70mm, so from a moderate wide angle to a moderate telephoto. That can make you quite lazy as a new photographer. It means you can go in on a subject, zoom out on a subject, and not actually have to move around. One of the things that I learned as a newcomer to photography, and this is going way back into the 1980s, when virtually all cameras came with prime lenses. By shooting with a prime lens, you really understand that you need to move around and you need to move in to frame your subject or move out to show more detail. You need to get down low, you need to get up high. Shooting with a prime lens will actually teach you about perspective. It will teach you about space. It will teach you how a particular focal length works. Now, not everyone has got a prime lens. I certainly don't have at the moment. But what you can do is you can set your camera, say, to 35mm and set in your mind, do not touch that. And you go out and you shoot just at 35mm. It's a great way to get out there and start learning how to move and how to understand the framing of your subject, how to get in close, how to get a wider shot. By fixing that focal length, you will learn a lot in a very short time. Now, the third thing is use your smartphone. Not all of us want to go out with heavy cameras all the time, but everyone, nearly everyone, has a smartphone these days. They're great cameras. They often have multiple focal lengths. You can do wide angle, you can moderate telephotos, and you can get great results. Now, they're not going to teach you a huge amount about the techniques of photography. What they will do is allow you to understand things like light and composition. You can get a shot very quickly without having to think too much, but you can compose it, you can see where the light is falling, and you can get a great image because the smartphone is doing the work for you. You can even go back to tip 2 and just set your phone onto one focal length. As I said, smartphones have multiple focal lengths, but they generally do not have zoom cameras. The zooms are digital. So you can set your smartphone just to one focal length, 24mm, 35mm, whatever you want, and just shoot in that particular focal length. And that will really help your photography. But the beauty of smartphones is they're with you all the time, and you can get out and you can just capture whatever you want. You could be out with your friends and family on a day trip, no main camera, see a fantastic shot and capture it with an iPhone. Tip 4 is understanding light. A lot of newcomers to photography will go out at midday, early afternoon and shoot whatever they want to shoot, their location, their local city. That's not the best time. The best times of day to shoot are when the sun is a little lower in the sky, when it's casting some shadows on the buildings or the subjects that you're shooting, when that light is a little bit more soft, a little bit more yellow. In the middle of the day, the light is very harsh and your images will show that. They will be flat, lacking in contrast. It'll be very difficult to isolate your subject from the background. Learn to get up early, learn to go out late in the afternoon. The golden hours, the hour just after the sun rises or the hour just before the sun sets, are fantastic times to shoot. Look at the weather. The weather has a really, really important role in the images that we take. A beautiful blue sky might be great for a travel brochure, but it doesn't create a really interesting travel photograph. What you want is some clouds in the sky, some definition in that sky. You want to get shape and shadow and form into your images. That doesn't often happen at midday, so be prepared to get up early, be prepared to go out in the afternoon, and don't be afraid to go out at night. The blue hours in the morning before the sun rises or in the evening after the sun has set are fantastic times to shoot. City lights come on, you get that deep azure colour in the sky. The artificial lights of the city really bringing you some beautiful, beautiful images. If you can, avoid the middle of the day and shoot at any other time. Tip 5 is to start to understand composition. Now, there's a lot of photographers out there that say there are no rules to composition. Well, I would disagree. Let's call them guidelines rather than rules. However, composition has been built on 1,000 years of artistic endeavour. There are artists much greater than us that have lived in the centuries before us that have honed these compositional guidelines for us. To ignore them is to possibly reduce the creativity of your image. You really do need to embrace them. You don't have to embrace all the complex compositions at first. Start with the basics, the rule of thirds, leading lines, minimalist space. They're very easy compositions to do. A great tip here is once you understand a composition, let's say the rule of thirds, go out and just shoot images in the rule of thirds. You maybe won't get the greatest images of all time, but what you will find yourself doing is you'll start to see the rule of thirds subliminally. And you could do that for each compositional rule that you want to learn. It's a great way of understanding composition, of embedding composition into your mind and making it an instinctive thing when you shoot. As you get more and more advanced with your photography, you can go out and look for more and more advanced compositions. As you really progress, you can look at combining compositions, rule of thirds with minimalism, leading lines with the golden spiral. There are multiple ways that you can combine compositions. But at first, set a compositional guideline in your mind, go out and shoot it. Number 6 is to embrace minimalism. As new photographers, one of the things we tend to do quite a lot is trying to encompass everything we see in front of us into the photo. That's really a wrong way to do it, because if you go back to stage 1 where we talked about isolating your subject, if you're trying to get everything in, you're not really trying to concentrate on a particular subject within that frame. If you're trying to incorporate everything, your shots are going to look busy, they're going to look uninspired. You're going to find it difficult to actually isolate subjects within them. If you try to embrace minimalism, you will start to see images, for instance, a single colourful door on a grey wall. You can isolate that, and that's a minimalist image. There are many ways of embracing minimalism. You're trying to find a subject within a whole area of nothingness, if you like. Minimalism is a really good way to make your mind think about your subject and your background and how they work together. It's sometimes hard to spot in nature, but when you do start to tune your mind into it, you will start to see it everywhere. Number 7 is, it's a simple one. Edit your images. There are photographers out there that will tell you they only ever take their images from the camera and that's it. Ansel Adams is probably one of the greatest landscape photographers of all time. His images are heavily edited. He had a printer who he had a very good working relationship with, and he explained to his printer exactly how he wanted that negative to look in the print. Editing is a fundamental part of photography. There are plenty of free apps out there. You don't even have to add it on a laptop or a computer like this. You can edit on your smartphone these days. There's no reason why you can't do that. Editing will bring punch, it will bring colour to your images, it will bring contrast and subtlety to your images. It will allow you to crop in and isolate a subject if you haven't quite nailed it in camera. And that's quite possible if you are, for example, using a prime lens like in example 1 and you can't get in closer because there maybe is a fence in front of you, you can crop it a little bit. Embracing editing is a good thing. Despite what some people say, editing is a fundamental part of the photographic process and it is something that you really should look at. Lastly is simple. Practice, practice, practice. Nobody gets better by going out once a month with their camera and shooting a few isolated things. You need to go out, not every day, but you need to go out once, twice, 2, 3 or 4 times a week and get shots. Again, you can take your iPhone, your smartphone, go out and shoot with your smartphone. Just start thinking photographically. Look around when you're out shopping. Perhaps there's an old rundown shop that looks really good. You could get your smartphone out, get some nice derelict style shots of that, then go back and edit them into a sort of grungy style image. There is an infinite number of subjects out there. They're everywhere, from your daily walk with your dog to a trip to a beautiful city in a faraway land. Whenever you're out, start thinking photographically and practice, practice, practice. So I hope these tips have been useful for you. They're just some of the things that I've learned over the years of photography that I'm doing. If they have been useful, please drop me a like, perhaps even better a subscription. If you have any questions about trying to push your photography on, I'm quite happy to answer those questions. And if you'd like to see some of my work, I've actually put a link to my website down in the description below. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one.